So a lot of people in the United States don't know that the original names of indigenous groups were essentially replaced and renamed by the colonial powers. So today we're going to be taking a look at exonyms and endonyms, and we're going to look at what role it played in politics and colonization. Now, the content that I mostly focus on is Mexican history and indigenous language, but at one point in time, the United States, Mexico, and indigenous territories all vied for the same resources and had a shared history. So we're going to start off with the Apache tribes. Now, the Apache were named after the Zuni people, after Apache, which means the enemy, and we're going to dig into this concept of demonizing or villainizing other people later. But their endonym was Ende, or the people. Now, depending on the region that you're from, you're going to have a different endonym. Now, we're going to take a look at the very famous Comanche people, and they share a very similar history relative to colonization as the Apaches. Now, the Comanche are named after the Ute word Kumansi, which again means the enemy, but the endonym means the human beings, or Namana. Now, you'll notice time and time again that people refer to themselves as the people, like the Purepecha or the common people, the Apache are the people, the Comanche are the people or the human beings. Before the formation of nation states, there were essentially these empires, and there were subjects or different regions, right? So that's how we refer to as us. So even in the United States, we refer to ourselves as we the people. Now, the Comanche were labeled the enemy like the Apache because they essentially gave the Spanish and the Mexicans and the US Americans a really hard time when it came to colonization. Like, one of the key reasons that the US were able to defeat Mexico in the US-Mexican War was because the Comanche had already weakened the Spanish Empire and the newly formed Mexican states for basically a century before that even happened. So as the Spanish and the Mexicans pushed more north, these territories got really large, and they were essentially weakly held because the Apaches and the Comanches gave them a hard time. Now, as a colonizing force, you're going to be greatly incentivized to politicize the identity of people that are giving you a hard time so that you can form alliances and allegiances with other tribes. Last but not least, we have the Navajo, which I'm sure some people are surprised is not actually their original name. The Navajo name originates from the Dewa Pueblo Navajo, which essentially describes the land that they lived on, a fertile valley farm field. But what is notable about this is that this territory in general is very unforgiving when it comes to agriculture, so it's a very earned name. But their endonym, or how they refer to themselves, is again the people, or Dine. Now, if you enjoyed content like this, I have other videos explaining different exonyms and endonyms in Mexico, why the Spanish and Mexican governments labeled these groups up north as barbaric, and why the US called them the enemy. I only have 3 minutes to make these videos, and when I make them, time flies by, so it feels really short for me, and maybe for you too, hopefully, if you're enjoying them. But if you did enjoy this work, I would love for you to check out my work. I work really, really hard on it. I try not to sell too hard, but I'd also appreciate a like if you enjoyed this so you can see more. All right, folks, peace. Oh yeah, and follow. Don't forget to follow. Follow, peace.